After hours of relentless combat and a desperate struggle to repel repeated assaults, the defenders of the fortress stood on the edge of collapse. Though they had succeeded in pushing enemy forces back from the walls, the cost of survival was becoming painfully clear. Exhaustion weighed heavily on every soldier, and the garrison was losing men at a rate it could no longer sustain. The battlefield bore the signs of prolonged and brutal fighting. Broken weapons, shattered defenses, and the wounded filled the narrow spaces within the fortress. Medical supplies were dwindling, and makeshift aid stations struggled to cope with the constant stream of injured soldiers. Every casualty weakened the defensive line, and replacements were scarce. In contrast, the Ottoman army continued to demonstrate its overwhelming numerical strength. Fresh reinforcements arrived steadily at the front lines, allowing the attackers to maintain constant pressure. While the defenders fought with courage and determination, they faced an enemy that seemed able to replenish its ranks without pause. The psychological strain on the garrison was immense. Days of uninterrupted siege had eroded morale and drained physical strength. Sleep was rare and often interrupted by alarms and renewed attacks. Soldiers rotated between the walls and brief moments of rest, but the cycle of combat offered little relief. Commanders inside the fortress were acutely aware of the fragile situation. Strategic meetings focused on how to stretch limited resources and manpower. Every available fighter, including volunteers and reserve units, was assigned to critical positions. Defensive tactics were adjusted to conserve energy while maximizing effectiveness. Despite their fatigue, the defenders continued to fortify vulnerable sections of the walls. Damaged structures were reinforced with timber and debris, creating improvised barriers designed to slow the next assault. Engineers worked alongside infantry, repairing breaches and strengthening weak points under constant threat of renewed attack. Food and supplies also became a growing concern. Prolonged isolation had strained the fortress's reserves. Rations were carefully measured to ensure they would last as long as possible. Hunger added another layer of hardship, compounding the exhaustion already gripping the garrison. Meanwhile, the Ottoman forces showed no sign of easing their offensive. Artillery bombardments resumed at intervals, targeting previously damaged areas and testing the resilience of the repairs. Each explosion sent tremors through the fortress, reminding the defenders that another large-scale assault could come at any moment. Observers within the stronghold described a tense and somber atmosphere. Conversations among soldiers were brief and subdued. Many understood that the margin for error had vanished. A single successful breakthrough by the attackers could unravel the entire defense. Yet even in the face of mounting losses, discipline held the garrison together. Officers moved constantly among the ranks, offering encouragement and maintaining order. Shared hardship forged a powerful sense of unity. The defenders knew that their survival depended on collective resolve. Medical teams worked tirelessly to return wounded soldiers to the fight whenever possible. Minor injuries were treated quickly, and those able to stand were sent back to their positions. Every recovered fighter represented a vital reinforcement in a battle where manpower was increasingly precious. The contrast between the two sides grew sharper with each passing hour. For the Ottomans, the siege was sustained by deep reserves of troops and resources. For the defenders, every fallen soldier represented an irreplaceable loss. This imbalance shaped the rhythm of the conflict, forcing the garrison to rely on ingenuity and determination to offset numerical disadvantage. Night brought little comfort. Under the cover of darkness, both sides prepared for the next phase of fighting. The defenders used the time to repair fortifications and redistribute supplies. Torches flickered along the walls as workers labored in near silence, aware that enemy scouts were watching for signs of weakness. Reports from the ramparts indicated increased enemy movement beyond the fortress. The attackers were reorganizing, likely preparing another coordinated strike. Inside the stronghold, commanders responded by tightening defensive formations and issuing final instructions to their units. As dawn approached, the scale of the defenders' exhaustion became unmistakable. Faces were drawn, uniforms stained with dust and sweat, and movements slowed by fatigue. Yet when the first light touched the battered walls, soldiers returned to their posts with quiet determination. The fortress remained standing, but its defenders were nearing the limits of their endurance. Each new assault would test not only their defenses, but also their capacity to continue fighting against overwhelming odds. The siege had evolved into a contest of attrition, where resilience and willpower were as decisive as weapons and walls. In this precarious balance, the fate of the fortress hung uncertain. The defenders had proven their ability to repel powerful attacks, but their shrinking numbers and mounting exhaustion cast a long shadow over the future. Against an enemy sustained by seemingly endless reinforcements, they faced a stark reality. Survival would demand sacrifices greater than any they had yet endured.